everyone and welcome back to the Great Book of Grudges. My name is Nathan and we're back with another Total War Warhammer video. As you can probably tell, I'm feeling a lot better, so I feel like it's time to start doing some mod reviews, because it's been a while and there's some pretty cool stuff showing up at the Steam Workshop. So today we're going to look at Norsca, because you know what? Norsca is the worst DLC in the whole Total War Warhammer series at the moment, and God, it's so depressing. But thankfully modders come in and fix that because, well, if we keep waiting for Creative Assembly, we might as well die of old age. So we have a new mod that's just recently released in the workshop known as Northmen of the New World. This is a faction mod which introduces 3 new playable factions, minor factions that we've known in both lore and of course in the Total War series, but with their own unique units. So each individual faction plays completely differently, meaning that you'll have 3 different playstyles to play around with, new units to play around with, and not only that, but some replayability. And the great thing about this is you can either play with these factions in either the Mortal Empires campaign, or you can even play in the Eye of the Vortex, which is great, because that means that if you want a smaller campaign, you've got that there for you. Let's start off with the Argol, found in the northern reaches of the Warhammer Fantasy world, right above the nation of Norsca, and in between both the Norskins and the Dark Elves, you've got a pretty interesting start, and it's probably one of the safest ones, as you're not going to really be attacked by many things. Now, in regards to faction effects, it won't be found in the typical place for all the factions, but rather in the faction's leader's own specific trait. So in regards to the Argol, we've got Vanred here, and his unique trait, High Chief, has the following effects for both himself and his faction. Also keep in mind that some of these factions are only for him. Now let's keep moving. Campaign movement range while at sea plus 30% for all armies. Chaos Corruption plus 3 for local province. Hero capacity plus 2 for Shaman Sorcerers faction wide. And finally a tribute stalk for Lord's army. Yep, the whole army. It's actually quite interesting. Vanred of course has his own unique skills. These will focus around improving magical reserves, for example, or even bonus against large, as keep in mind that the lore in a sense about this faction is that they're all whalers. This will be represented with their units. Believe me, some of these unique models are pretty grim. Other than that, you've also got access to a unique lore of magic known as the Lore of Spirits, which I believe is only available to him, and that makes him a bit more unique. It's a pretty good lore and it does its damage where it needs to. I wouldn't say that it's highly needed, but then again, the best thing about this faction specifically, it's his custom units, believe me. You will have some new buildings, which will give you access to some new units as expected. Keep in mind that these new units are only for the Argol faction. We'll go over the units for everything else soon enough. But as it stands, remember that you are still playing Norsca, which of course means that you're limited in terms of buildings, how many settlements you can have and so on. So try and be wise as to how you're going to build up your forces, because yeah, it can become an issue. Trust me, I know from experience. And now let's check out the unique units for this faction alone. Keep in mind that yes, there are some graphical issues when it comes to certain things, but I imagine that those will get fixed up in the future. But what you can see already is that there's also a lot of unique stuff, and some of the stuff is pretty grim. I mean, those dread whales are terrifying. You'll also notice that a lot of your current units from the Norsca Vanilla faction will also get reskinned a little bit too, which is pretty cool. But the main thing is having these whales and walruses and spirit beasts and so on. You'll also have access to, say for example, sleds, which, you know, we got them before Kislev, so cool. And your standard units, like I said before, will have a little bit of a visual change to reflect the lore of said faction. It's pretty cool. It's not 100% lore friendly because, you know, some things just didn't exist, but hey, it's an interesting system, and I think that it makes this faction a lot more fun. Now, we've got 2 more factions to look over still. Now, we've got the Hmong, which are in the very far corner of the map, so if anyone likes playing corner style, covering map to map, this is probably the best way to go. Though it's still Norsca, so you can't really cover map to map, so yeah. You'll start off with a Changer of Ways at the very beginning, whose head's been replaced with that of an eagle, so it's a bit more stylized. This will also give you access to some magic at the very beginning. It's not the best lore, and it doesn't have any special traits or anything, but trust me, it's kind of needed at the very beginning, as well, you're surrounded by Skaven and you're surrounded by Dark Elves. You're going to want to be able to hit back with something magical. Your character and faction effects are known as Horse Lord and has the following effects. Ability Rowdy for cavalry units, all armies. Ability Beasts of Burden for single entity monsters, all armies. Reduced upkeep for hung units in Lord's army. This is because keep in mind that the Hmong were originally called the Hung in lore, but then Creative Assembly changed it because, yeah. Possibly scared of too many ding-dong jokes? Because, I don't know. I don't know. Anyways, let's move on. Campaign movement range plus 15% for own armies starting their turn in this region, Lord's Army. So there's a bit of a benefit there, and let's keep on moving. Not a lot of custom skills on your legendary character here, however he is pretty strong in terms of stats, and he will boost up your cavalry capabilities and even get perfect vigor, so it kind of balances things out. Either way, remember this is still Norsca, and Norsca is not meant to be that extremely powerful. As with all factions in this mod, you'll have access to new buildings, which work out quite well. Keep in mind with this particular faction, you will need to get up to a tier 5 settlement, so you're going to have to take advantage of any capitals that you can actually get your hands on. That being said, there's not that many capitals that you can actually get, so there is another way that you can make use of the new units. Your legendary lord is also a pseudo-horde, meaning that you can move around and cause as much damage as you want, whilst also recruiting, and you won't suffer with the usual Norsca thing where certain areas you can't control, so you can't build up armies, or you won't be able to get into global recruitment, and so on. This makes the character quite powerful, and to be honest, it should be the case for, like, literally every Norscan legendary lord. Even the vanilla ones, we should add them as pseudo-hordes. But until we get a fabled Norsca rework, this is going to do, and it's going to do very nicely. Now, in regards to unique units for this faction, you have a few different ones, like for example, a very strange battering ram, which can do quite a little bit of damage. We've got some war hydras, which, yeah, it's a dark elf unit, but it makes sense with these guys. Some grey eagles. Mostly then, it works towards the hung, or the Hmong, depending on what you want to call them, but these are a faction of steppe nomads, which mostly are archers, cavalry archers at that, and it works out pretty well because this is a skirmishing-based faction. You've also got some very hard-hitting centigores too, because, I mean, that's always fun, isn't it? It's very cavalry-focused, very range-focused, but you'll also notice that your basic units, quite a lot of them at least, have also been updated visually to be given the more hung style. This has happened for all three factions. We're going to show the third in just a bit. It's a great thing because obviously a lot of attention to detail has been put in, and you're just not playing a similar faction, just recolored units. You're playing a complete reskin, which gives more of a unique feeling. And lastly, we have a change to Skeggy, which makes this playable and very, very unique. Now, Skeggy is probably the hardest one, as you're right smack between Mazdamundi, all the Lizardmen, and of course, Ulf1. So in harder difficulties, this may be the hardest one, yet possibly the most fun. Your faction and lord effects are known as Jungle Veteran, and they have the following benefits. Ability Primal Instinct for Marauder units in all armies. Units gain plus 3% weapon and missile strength per rank achieved in Lord's army. Upkeep minus 25% for Dino units in Lord's army. Magic item drop chance plus 20% all characters. Immune to swamp attrition all armies. And finally, upkeep minus 50% for Marauder units in Lord's army. It sounds like a lot, but trust me, you're not going to be using Marauders a lot, believe me. You won't have a lot of unique skills once again, however, you will notice that Looters of Legend will give you a upkeep reduction of minus 15% for Chaos Marauder units for all armies faction-wide, which is pretty good, and you will notice a Carnosaur mount too, which, yeah, it's pretty cool. And as always, new buildings, but not a lot of them, but keep in mind that you don't really need them too much, as this new building will give you stuff like Armoured Bastiladons, just wait till you see them, and a Bastiladon with a mounted hell cannon. Yep, you've heard me correctly. Now, you can see these new units on screen right now, and they look absolutely grim. I mean, the Carnosaur is just awesome, the Armoured Bastiladons too. There are a few issues, of course, sometimes with clipping and so on, but it's relatively minor. Obviously, this might be subject to change in the future, but still, it's really, really cool. There's loads of really cool stuff you can see, say, for example, of course, the Cold One chariots for the Marauders. There's just so many cool things because it's focused around you living out with the dinos. So you've got a mixture of both Northmen, who, by the way, have access to weapons from the Lizardmen to keep on theme, and obviously the big dinos, which are heavily armored and so on. Your legendary character also has access to his Carnosaur mount, which is pretty cool. It's actually really, really well stylized. But before we end this video, I'm just going to give you some final thoughts regarding the mod. Obviously, it doesn't fix the very blatant issues that Norsca has. This is something that Creative Assembly will need to do themselves because, you know, it's hard-coded and so on. But it does add in for some unique playstyles, and it gives you a reason to play as Norsca again without the usual boring thing of Frog or Wolfric all the time, or just being in Norsca all the time. It's nice to have a different start in a different location, which will allow you to actually enjoy yourself. The fact is, you can start pretty much anywhere, or you could even do a Eye of the Vortex campaign if you want a shorter campaign. It's all up to you, and it's just a bit more fun. I've got to say that each of the 3 different factions play very differently, and it's really nice to have, as it gives you reason to replay them. It's a good thing. It's very much like, for example, when you get a DLC character, it's so drastically different to a base game load where you want to play it again. Jumping in with a quick edit here, it seems that the mod itself is only fully compatible when it's working on the Mortal Empires campaign, for now at least. This is confirmation from the modder Fom. This is the modder. I really enjoy his mods. He always works on some really cool stuff. Some of you may know him for his Clan Vulcan and Clan Ferric mods, which are obviously so high tier that I can't recommend them enough. I really highly recommend this mod if you want to play as Norsca but not feel depressed about it. So yeah, it's something there. And you can find it in the description below. It's fun. The Dino faction is just the best. Skeggy is just really, really fun. I suggest giving that a try because, I mean, it's a Bastiladon with a mounted L cannon. Who doesn't want that? But with that, my friends, we've come to the end of our video. Thank you so much for watching. If you did enjoy the video, might I suggest giving the video a like, or even subscribing to the channel, as it really does help us out. In the description section below are various links to different social media platforms such as Facebook, Instagram, and Discord. Also in the description section is an affiliate link with Element Games where you could buy loads of hobby-based products, not just Warhammer, for 10 to 25% off. Making a purchase using that link and also our special code, which is also in the description, supports the channel at no extra cost to you, which we think is rather cool. A big thank you to our patrons. Your support means the world to us. It's amazing that people want to help a small channel like us grow and get to a higher level of content. A big thank you to Gibraltar LUSC, Ryan Bertsche, Andrew Prince, and Okro for subscribing to us at our Fane level. You guys are super cool. And a big thank you to Edward Yule, VS Vasan, Aaron Whitman, and Shaggy for subscribing to us at our King level. Honestly, we can't thank you all enough. And lastly, a big thank you to all of you for liking, sharing, and commenting on these videos. Honestly, it's because of you guys that the channel has been growing at such a great pace lately, so we can't thank you all enough. But with that, my friends, thank you so much for watching once again, and we shall see you all again very, very soon. Have a good day.